South Korean and U.S. government officials are taking the North's threat seriously, and despite North Korea's brinksmanship, it's still possible that a crisis will be averted and both sides will be able to use diplomatic channels to come to an agreement instead of resorting to fighting. But how did the conflict build up to a possible attack by North Korea? On Skype, we have Scott Snyder. Scott is a senior fellow for Korean Studies at the Council on Foreign Relations and spent years living in South Korea. Last month, North Korea defied UN sanctions and carried out a missile test, as you know, Scott, and it has continued to ramp up its threats to attack South Korea and the U.S., saying it's all in response to provocations by the South and the United States. So what provocations is North Korea talking about?
Basically, North Korea is primarily taking objection to the annual USROK exercises that are going on right now. In South Korea, there are some military exercises that have been held on a regular basis. I think also the North Koreans are referring to the UN Security Council resolution, which condemns their latest nuclear test. They take exception to that imposition of sanctions on North Korea. And then also in response to North Korea's threats, the South Korean side has been responding in kind. And so I think that the North Korean threats most recently have also been a way of trying to defend the dignity of the leadership against this perceived insult from South Korea. The North Korean leadership can use a magnified external threat as a way of forging internal unity and strengthening its political control. And then also, I think the North Koreans are trying to establish markers and parameters to kind of shape the field for asserting that it should be recognized as a nuclear weapon state.
This is also the first test for a new South Korean president, Park Geun-hye, and it's been said that North Korea uses provocations as a sort of initiation for new leaders in the South. So how is the new administration in South Korea handling this situation so far?
Well, so far I think the South Korean government under Park Geun-hye has been trying to send a clear signal that the South Korean government is not going to be yielding to North Korean efforts to use its nuclear capacity to blackmail South Korea. And so that's the reason why I think that accounts for South Korea's heightened efforts to counter North Korean threats with its own responses that it's telegraphing as a way of sending a message to North Korea that it won't be bullied. The other thing that I think that we are just beginning to see is evidence that despite this heightened threat environment, South Korea is going to be making some efforts to reach out to North Korea. There was an announcement in the last few days that the South Korean government was going to de-link humanitarian aid to North Korea from denuclearization. And so I think that the hope is that through these efforts to restore a basis for dialogue and trust building, as the Park administration calls it, that it will be possible to reduce tensions and establish a more stable dialogue relationship with North Korea.
All right, thanks, Scott, for your insights. Scott Snyder is a Korean expert at the Council on Foreign Relations. He lived in South Korea from 2000 to 2004.
Now on U.S. airwaves, a global channel of uncompromising stories. World news, documentaries, entertainment, and culture. Link TV, connecting you to the world. For more information, visit linktv.org.